Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our culture unit as we begin the hot month of July. And we might be traveling this summer. And, of course, we know that traveling to countries that are far north or far south might be a cool place to go. And, of course, we're going to go to Russia today. If you're going to Russia on your vacation, of course, you want to bring back some souvenirs, right? Like maybe a bottle of vodka or something like that.
Caviar.
Do they have caviar in Russia?
Oh, yeah.
They
produce the most expensive caviar on the earth, yes.
Okay, well, another thing you might consider when you go to Russia are those dolls that kind of fit inside each other.
Nesting dolls, yeah.
Nesting dolls. I think in Russian they're called matryoshka or something like that.
Matryoshka.
Which we're going to actually be discussing today. Our article is about a curious look inside the Russian doll. Interesting. A look inside something, and we're actually going to go inside these dolls because you can go inside many different times in these dolls.
They're really cool. I'm sure most of our listeners have seen a version of these somewhere. Yeah, there's a bigger doll on the outside, but then usually you take the head off and you find another doll inside that, and then another doll and another doll. It's kind of fun, and they're very pretty, so we're going to be talking about that. I think I owned some nesting dolls when I was a kid. It's been a long time, though. I was just telling someone who works here with us, one of the editors, that there was a baking show I was watching, the Great British Bake Off, and they had a Russian girl who had immigrated to England. And the cake that she made was one of these matryoshkas. It was a cake that if you cut the first part of it off and looked inside, there was another doll inside it. So if you get a chance, that would be, I think, season 8.
Wow.
Of the Great British Bake Off. Check that out. We're going to go ahead, guys, and get started, and then we'll be back to talk about this particular kind of doll and how it's part of the culture. They're a symbol of Russian culture. You've likely seen them in pictures, and maybe even held one in your hand. Wooden dolls painted in bright colors to create the appearance of cherubic characters. Carved into an egg-like shape from a single piece of wood, the doll has no arms and feels perfectly smooth. In English, it's simply called a Russian doll, or sometimes a nesting doll, for its ability to hide or nest other dolls within itself. The Russians have their own name for it, matryoshka. Inspect one closely, and you will see that the doll is cut in half at the waist. Upon opening it, you will find another doll within, which also opens up to reveal more dolls that get sequentially smaller. The matryoshka usually takes the form of a traditional Russian mother. In fact, the name matryoshka comes from the Russian word for mother. Close family relationships are important in Russian culture, and the smaller dolls often represent other members of the family. Inside will be the mother's children and grandchildren. Sometimes, though, these dolls appear as sets of fairy tale characters or celebrities. This long-established handicraft is believed to have been inspired by a similar craft found in Japan, called fukuruma. Russian artisans gave the dolls a cultural twist by painting the figures with traditional characteristics, like distinctive Russian clothing. This art form received global recognition when Russian folk artists won a medal for their work at an international exhibition in Paris, France, in 1900. No matter what kind of character a matryoshka is made to resemble or how many dolls it contains, it's always a fun, iconic Russian souvenir for visitors to take home.
Okay, we're going to be curious about Matryoshka dolls in today's program. So it's our unit on culture. And again, the title is A Curious Look Inside the Russian Doll. We are curious about these things, so we're going to take a look. It's going to be a curious look inside these dolls that come from Russia. Well, they're a symbol of Russian culture. You've likely seen them in pictures and maybe even held one in your hand. What are they? Well, they are wooden dolls painted in bright colors to create the appearance of cherubic characters. Okay, so yes, indeed, these are a symbol of Russian culture. Different countries around the world have different symbols for their cultures. Of course, here in Taiwan, we have different symbols for Taiwanese or Chinese culture in various forms. In the writing, for example, or the temple decorations or whatever. In American culture, some symbols would be, cowboys or whatever, the Statue of Liberty or something like that. But in Russia, one of their symbols of their culture are these Russian dolls, and you've probably seen them around. If you haven't had them in front of you, you've probably seen pictures of them. Or maybe you have a friend who went to Russia and brought these back and let you play with them. So you've probably even held one in your hand, and you could open it up and see that there's another one inside, and then you open up that one, and there's another one inside of that. And it just goes on and on. So they are made out of wood, so they're wooden dolls which are painted in bright colors. And they are creating the appearance of cherubic characters. I hope I said that word right.
Yeah.
That kind of has to do with angels, I guess, like baby angels or something like that. That's what we use to describe them. I guess they have fat faces.
Yeah, plump cheeks, and they look like little angelic kids, yeah.
Kind of like the Western version of the chubby babies that you sometimes see on posters here during Chinese New Year. These little babies that are real fat. This is kind of like a Western version of that. They have wings, they're like angels.
Now, how they make them is they actually carve them. The set that I had was very light, too. The wood was very light wood, so I was surprised there were other things inside it once I started opening it. So they're carved into an egg-like shape. Think of an egg. It's kind of shaped with an oblong kind of shape. Some of them are like that, not all of them, but they're shaped from a single piece of wood. It's pretty amazing what they're able to do. The doll has no arms and really doesn't have any legs either, and feels perfectly smooth. So they don't actually carve into the wood. They carve the shape, and then everything is hand-painted, at least the one I had. So if you say it's smooth, it's got a nice soft texture. It's not rough or kind of bumpy, just very smooth. If you feel skin, it's usually quite smooth. Something that's rough would be like a tree bark, the part of the tree that's on the outside. It's not very smooth. Usually it's very rough. So it's very smooth. And remember, they're shaping this or carving it out of a single piece of wood, which is amazing.
Indeed, they're soft and they're smooth. I think we also use the word smooth to describe whiskey. If it's not too bitter, it can be very smooth. Ooh, that whiskey is very smooth. It cost a fortune. But here, of course, we're referring to the feeling, to the touch here. So they're perfectly smooth. And in English, it's simply called a Russian doll. So, of course, if you go to Russia and you want to buy one of these things and you don't speak Russian, you might say, hey, do you sell those Russian dolls? And they'll probably know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, yes, to speakers of English, that's what they're called, a Russian doll. Sometimes they're called a nesting doll. I had not heard that myself before. I would have used the term Russian doll, but nesting doll is also a term that is used to refer to these things. And we're calling it a nesting doll for its ability to hide or nest other dolls within itself. So here we have the word nest being used as a verb. Birds usually build nests in trees. In, March or April, you can see the swallows building nests in front of stores all over Taiwan. That's where birds live, in a nest. But here, nest is being used as a verb. That just means something kind of settles into a place as if it's sitting inside a nest.
Yeah, it's often used just to talk about something that's smaller, that's fitting inside or within something larger. So, yeah, nests dolls within nesting dolls. I have heard that before, but I'm a little bit more into dolls than, say, Tom is, for good reason. Tom doesn't really play with dolls, but I had lots of sisters, and my mom loved these. She's the one who actually brought home my first Russian doll or nesting doll when my mom and dad were traveling. So, yeah, so you could use that. Typically, most people will refer to them as Russian dolls. And if you're really cool, you'll know the Russian term for it. So try using that, matryoshka. So here in the next paragraph, we're moving down. We're going to inspect one closely. If you inspect something, you look at it very carefully. Perhaps you're looking for flaws or errors or problems in something. Before you buy something, especially maybe you want to buy a very expensive piece of clothing, you better inspect it closely to see if there are any stains from other customers, perhaps trying a dress on and getting lipstick on it or something. I've seen that happen. Or maybe you're buying a cool new phone or laptop. Inspect it to see if there are any problems with it before you put down that cash or credit card that you want to buy it with. People who inspect things closely are also the police or detectives. In fact, in England, they call their detectives inspectors. So you might run into someone whose job is to inspect. Maybe it's a housing inspector who comes to see if the person who built your house did a good job. They'll look and see if there are any problems with it. So inspect here is a verb, so you want to inspect one closely. And if you do, you'll see that the doll's cut in half at the waist, typically. I've also seen some that are cut just below the shoulders or even at the head.
Yeah, it kind of depends on who you're buying the doll from and how they wanted to carve it. So, yes, if you take a close look at these dolls or if you inspect it, you'll see that it's cut in half, probably at the waist, but maybe just below the neck, as you said. And upon opening it, when you open it, you will find another doll within, which also opens up to reveal more dolls that get sequentially smaller. Okay, so to reveal means to show something, especially if it has been hidden for a long time. Tomorrow we're going to reveal our new products to the market, for example. And sequentially, that's an adverb having to do with the word sequence, which means a particular order. Okay, they just get smaller and smaller in sequence or in a certain order. Okay, so there you have it. That's what those dolls are in a nutshell. Okay, so that brings us to the midway point in our lesson for today. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 我们今天要介绍的主题呢是 The Russian Doll, 俄罗斯娃娃。首先来看到第一个空格，它的句子后面写着 blank one into an egg-like shape from a single piece of wood.The doll has no arms and feels perfectly smooth. 在这里来叙述呢，这个俄罗斯娃娃呢，没有手背，摸起来很平滑。那么它是从仅仅一块木头，怎么样成为一个很像是鸡蛋形状的俄罗斯娃娃？第一题要考考同学们的文法概念。后面的主词 the doll 它是被雕刻成为这样的形状，所以在这里考的是分词构句的概念 VPP 表被动。第一题标准答案就选择 D carved 有被雕刻的意思。第二个空格In English, it's simply called a Russian doll, or sometimes a nesting doll, blank 2, its ability to hide or nest other dolls within itself. 在英文当中呢，它就简称为俄罗斯娃娃，或者呢，怎么样，它能够在内部隐藏，或者再套入其他的玩偶，有时候我们也称之为 nesting doll, 或者是套娃。我们在这里考考同学，第二题 A 选项 by 有借由， B for 表示原因， C despite 尽管虽然， D against 反抗对抗，因为它有能力呢，里面再套其他的玩偶，所以我们会把它称之为 nesting doll， 来说明 nesting doll 它的缘由跟原因，所以搭配文意。第二题我们就选择 B for 用来表示说明原因的意思。 第三个空格 blank 3 it You will find another doll within which also opens up to reveal more dolls that get sequentially smaller. 在这里后面的句子提到，你还会发现还有另外一个娃娃，然后这个娃娃呢也能够打开，再看到里面有越多越来越小的娃娃。第三个空格我们看了一下它的选项，其实要表达的就是一怎么样就怎么样。你一打开这个俄罗斯娃娃，就会发现里面还有很多个越来越小的娃娃。在文法里面呢，我们可以用 upon 加上 VING， 像 A 选项的 upon opening， 也就是有你一打开它就会发现怎么样。那么 B 的选项呢，应该要说 the moment you open， 用现在式就可以了。那么 C 的选项也是 the instant you open。D 的选项呢，我们 no sooner 后面要搭配的是完成式，所以在这里文法正确的只有 A 选项 upon opening。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our culture unit. We're talking about Russian dolls, or as they call them in Russia, matryoshkas. They're nesting dolls. It's one doll. From the outside, it looks like one doll at least, but if you open that one up, you'll find other smaller dolls. And as you go down, they get smaller and smaller and smaller till there's kind of like a little baby doll. It's kind of fun. So we left you when we were talking about paragraph 2. I wanted to mention for those of you out there who are big fans of the show called Project Runway, some of the designers will design clothes that will have jackets or something on the outside, and as the model goes down the runway or the catwalk, as they call it in England, sometimes the model will take off the jacket and there's something even more spectacular beneath the jacket that will be called the reveal. Ooh, the big reveal. So sometimes you'll see a reveal used as a noun too, so get ready. Moving back to paragraph 2, the matryoshka usually takes the form, that's the shape, the form of a traditional Russian mother. This I didn't know. This is kind of interesting to discover. In fact, the name or the word matryoshka comes from the Russian word for mother. I didn't know that either. It's kind of fun to find this out. Russian language is kind of difficult, and you didn't get to hear it until about 20 years ago when Russia finally opened up and they let their communist citizens out of the country. They gave them some freedom. I remember the first time I was in a grocery store in New York City and I heard the Russian language and I was like, oh, that's Russian. Because you'd only hear it in movies from the bad guys. You know, the bad guys were always the Russians. And it was at that point I thought, ooh, the world has changed.
Yeah, Russian, you hear it more frequently. I think it actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I understand that grammatically it's quite difficult. So think twice if you want to study it because it's not that easy.
It's hard to sing in Russian, too. I had to sing some Rachmaninoff pieces.
Okay.
There's a lot of like you're eating food.
Okay, fair enough. The Russian I hear usually comes from those dash cam videos that come from Russia, showing all those spectacular traffic accidents in Russia. They're crazy there. They're drunk on vodka all the time. So Russia produces the best dash cam videos in the world. Yeah. Taiwan is a close second, though. But in any case here, yes, the word matryoshka comes from the word in Russia for mother. There are probably different forms of it. And close family relationships are important in Russian culture, and the smaller dolls often represent other members of the family. Okay, so indeed, yes, that's what I think of when I think of these dolls. The image that they have painted on the biggest one is of a female. Okay, I didn't know it was a mother, but that makes sense. It's like a Russian mother.
Yeah.
And then because they have close families there, they have other members of the family inside the mother doll. Maybe the father's next, then the daughter, then the son, all the way down to the little baby maybe even the pet dog.
Yeah, so don't expect to see the exact same doll or painted doll within the larger outside one. They'll often have different characters inside, which makes it more fun, of course. So inside will be the mother's perhaps children and grandchildren, and sometimes, though, these dolls appear as sets of fairy tale characters or celebrities. How fun is that? That would be one I'd like. I'd like a set of fairy tale characters. For example, maybe Little Red Riding Hood. She's on the outside. Maybe there's a grandma inside who gets eaten. Maybe there's a wolf who also, eats the grandma. This would be fun to look into. So if you get a chance and they're selling Russian dolls at different stores you go into, take a look inside and see what you can find. Now, if you're talking about a celebrity, it's someone who is famous that most people know from magazines or news stories. They don't have to be talented. They don't have to be singers or actors. They could just be famous because a lot of people know who they are. They're famous.
Indeed, and of course, I don't know any Russian celebrities. You might expect to find those dolls painted like Putin or Khrushchev or whoever.
Some of their leaders.
You could probably find some of those. It might be quite unique to give as a gift. And here in the next paragraph it says, this long-established handicraft is believed to have been inspired by a similar craft found in Japan called Fukuruma. Oh no, the Russians stole this idea from the Japanese. And of course, as you know, the Japanese got a lot of their cultural symbols from China. So maybe these things came from China thousands of years ago. But in any case, we're describing this as a handicraft, which is usually something that is made by hand, especially if it is a decorative object, something that you give as a gift, and then you just stick it on the shelf to look at it.
Yeah, or something you make, like something you knit or crochet or paint. Handicrafts are kind of cool to have, but they're not usually made by machines in big factories. So they're considered to be more special. So if something's inspired by something else, it just means something gave someone an idea. Or maybe they saw something and then they went home and tried to make a similar copy of it. Or maybe it wasn't an exact copy, but it had similarities with what they had seen initially. It sounds like that's what happened here. We're calling people who work with their hands and do very fine work artisans. Artisans can also be people who make really special types of bread and cheese. You'll often see that word applied to people who have a specialty in one area, and they have a lot of training. They're considered to be experts at it, but artisans make things that are considered art. And some of the food we eat is considered art as well. So here they gave the dolls a twist in Russia, a cultural twist, a cultural kind of flavor. I would say twist is something that's a little unexpected that you weren't expecting. Oftentimes movies will have a twist. Ooh, there was a twist at the end. Something happened that you didn't expect. Well, this is kind of cool because they actually paint these figures with traditional characteristics. So if you see the Russian dolls, they wouldn't be wearing Japanese kimonos. They would be wearing Russian clothing. They would look like Russians, in other words. Characteristics are things that you have that are very special to you. For example, a characteristic of most Americans, not everybody, but we're usually laughing and loud, and we wear tennis shoes a lot. Those are characteristics of some Americans, at least tourists.
Yep, special kinds of traits that someone has that you can identify them with. So it has this cultural twist, this cultural touch, making them more Russian than Japanese. They've got traditional Russian characteristics, like that Russian mother, or maybe one of those Russian dancers with the fat pants or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the Russian clothing. And this art form received global recognition when Russian folk artists won a medal for their work at an international exhibition way back in 1900 in Paris, France. Global means having anything to do with the world. They received global recognition. Now everybody in the world knows about them.
Okay, guys, moving on to the last paragraph. No matter what kind of character a matryoshka is made to resemble simply means to look like, or how many dolls it contains inside. It's always a fun, iconic, something that's really symbolic of something is an icon. So iconic is the adjective of icon. It's very iconic to pick these up as a Russian souvenir. They're pretty much perfect to take home to show your friends if you take a trip to Russia.That's
right, and of course bargain, because Russians are always trying to get a high price. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
在俄罗斯文化当中，亲密的家庭关系是非常重要的，所以第4个空格后面的句子提到 The smaller dolls often blank for other members of the family. 所以呢，这些比较小的娃娃通常怎么样？其他家庭成员。第4题 A. represent 代表 B. assemble 组合 C. deliver 递送 D. tolerate 忍受。在这里呢，比较小的俄罗斯娃娃就是用来代替其他的家庭成员，所以第4题搭配文意，我们选择 A. represent。第5个空格 Russian artisans gave the dolls a and blank 5 twist by painting the figures with traditional characteristics like distinctive Russian clothing.其实有这样子的想法，一刚开始是在日本发现的，后来俄罗斯的工匠呢，透过绘制像是俄罗斯有独特服饰的这种传统特色，给了这个娃娃怎么样子的 twist， 这样子的转折，这样的色彩呢？第5题 A. identical 相似的 B. anxious 焦虑的 C. efficient 有效率的 D. cultural 文化的。后面提到有俄罗斯的服饰加上去，所以当然是一些文化的独特色彩，搭配文意。第5题就选择 D. cultural。第6题 This art form received global blank 6. 那么呢，在1900年这个法国巴黎的国际展览会上获得奖牌，也就知道这样子的艺术形式呢，得到了全球的什么？第6题 A 选项 interruption 中断 B hesitation 犹豫 C recognition 赞誉赏识 D exception 例外，搭配文意得到了全球的赏识跟赞誉，我们答案就选择 C recognition。最后要考考同学，就是不论是哪样的角色跟形态，或者是它包含多少的娃娃，它都是一个代表俄罗斯的纪念品。在这里要搭配 what， 我们可以选择 A 选项的 no matter what， 中文就解释成为不论是什么。其他的呢都是连接词，然后呢它后面要接完整的句子都不适合，所以第7题的标准答案就选择 A no matter。OK， 以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy your trip to Russia if you choose to go, and bring back some matryoshka as souvenirs. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.